Hi Internet, welcome to the Greg Troyan YouTube channel, and welcome to Greg's XIV Adventures, a weekly vlog where I discuss my journey through Final Fantasy XIV as a first-time player. I beat A Realm Reborn back in 2022, and I'm finally finishing up the rest of the game. These vlogs are documenting my journey. If you like these videos and want to support their continued production, the best way to do that is to like the video, share it on a relevant social media site like Reddit, and leave a comment. And don't forget to check out the playlist of previous episodes, linked in the description and pinned comment. Thanks, pal. Hey everybody, how are you doing? It's your buddy Greg. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you're having a great life. So we are currently going through the Final Fantasy XIV filler arc on Greg's XIV Adventures, where I'm going through all of the different seasonal events and making videos on them as I go through the seasonal events that I had missed over the years, watching them on YouTube, and then giving my commentary, my thoughts on those different events that I'd missed. And so the last seasonal event on the list is Starlight Celebration, and I missed a lot of years of Starlight Celebration, and the Starlight Celebration quests are actually pretty long and pretty lengthy. A lot of those videos for the Starlight Celebration quest that I watched were like an hour long, and I took a lot of very detailed notes on the Starlight Celebration stuff, and didn't get my watch through of the Starlight Celebration quests finished until Wednesday morning. And I looked at my notes after I had finished watching all of them, and I realized I'm not going to have time to record my thoughts on all of this and get the vlog out this week because there's so much to talk about with Starlight Celebration just because the quests are so long. And so this week, instead of diving into Starlight Celebration, which I will do next week, this week I'm going to go over what my playing in Final Fantasy XIV has been the last few weeks, the actual playing of the game, and not just me watching the stuff on YouTube. I'm going to discuss what I've been doing in 14 the last few weeks, and as a little bonus, I will talk about the Another Eden Final Fantasy IX crossover seasonal event, because there is currently a 1-month limited time seasonal event in Another Eden, crossing over Final Fantasy IX, a epilogue quest that can only be played for a month, so that Final Fantasy IX Another Eden crossover was a 6-month event, and they added a final epilogue quest that you can only play for 1 month. So that is basically how seasonal events work in Final Fantasy XIV. You have about a month to play them typically. So I will talk about a seasonal event in this vlog, and it will be a Final Fantasy live service seasonal event. It will just not be a Final Fantasy XIV seasonal event. But because I did have some people watch that Final Fantasy IX Another Eden crossover video, I figured it was worth discussing here, and I did get some people expressing interest in me talking about the quest, so I will talk about that. But first I'm going to begin with talking about what I've been doing in 14 these last few weeks. A lot of what I've been doing has been messing with my graphics settings and updating my drivers, because ever since I did that Windows restart, I've had some pretty heavy frame rate drops from playing Final Fantasy XIV. And so I actually found that the game tends to run a lot better when I adjust the graphic settings from 100% quality to 67% quality, where it is a low enough quality where the frame rate seems to be better, but it's also not so low quality that it's ugly to look at. And what's funny is when I set it to 67%, I didn't mean to do the 6-7 meme, but then I realized what I did, and I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, mostly I've just been logging in to do the Bastion report. I've occasionally done some duties here or there where I've been stuck on long phone calls and just wanted to earn some extra gil. But aside from that, it's really just been playing with my buddy Summoner Jobin, because we do play 14 together once a week. We did the Make It Rain campaign together, which I apologize to Summoner Jobin for not realizing it was a seasonal event with a storyline, and so we've actually missed it together a couple of years. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't know there was actual story, I just thought it was bonus points at the Gold Saucer. But we did the Make It Rain campaign together, and Summoner Jobin seemed to really like it. They seemed like they were really satisfied with the event, which was cool. And then we started doing the Dragoon quest line with my alt Greg Troyan, because Summoner Jobin wants the Dragoon armor, the armor that looks like Kain, because he thinks Final Fantasy IV is awesome and loves the Kain armor. And Summoner Jobin knows through me that the Dragoon quest line does tie into the end of A Realm Reborn and Heavensward. I haven't told him how it ties into it, but he does know that he will get some extra story if he does that quest line. And so that was next on our 2 playlist, was doing the Dragoon quest line, which meant leveling Dragoon up from scratch. So when I was playing Final Fantasy XIV as Leto, I started with Dragoon in order to do the Gridania storyline, just because I wanted to start in Gridania to mix it up, because I'd started in Ul'dah previously. And so when I was going through a Realm Reborn, I'm like, oh man, I'm leveling the Lancer and Dragoon class pretty fast. Like, I'm just zooming through this. And so I always wanted to just level that up fast just to unlock Red Mage when playing as Leto. But I remembered it going pretty quickly, so I'm like, okay, this isn't going to take too long to get us to level 50 so we can do the Dragoon quest line. But the reason I was leveling up so fast was because I was doing MSQ. And so us leveling up felt like a painfully slow process where our play session where we started the Dragoon quest line, we only got to level 11 doing the quests, doing a bunch of fates and fighting low-level monsters. And so I suggested to Summer Jobin, like half jokingly, half serious, like, maybe we should just get a Palace of the Dead party together and just rock Palace of the Dead to get our levels up fast, which is what people used to do back in the day. I'm like, yeah, maybe we get one other person to do Palace with us on a Tuesday night. We could zoom through it, man. So I don't know. If you're interested in doing Palace with us so we can level up the Dragoon class, let us know. But yeah, I was really hoping we get to at least level 15 so we could do the Duty Finder for leveling. But yeah, the leveling process is much slower than I remember. But yeah, given how slow this leveling process is, I don't feel nearly as bad about doing the great Final Fantasy XIV filler arc of just watching the quests on YouTube for the job classes, which will be coming up after Starlight Celebration. Like, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I should engage with the mechanics and, take the time to level them up. But I'm like, that will take so long. And I know that, like, genuinely, I just don't enjoy playing this other job classes as much as, like, why do that? So I will be watching the story, but I'm regretting my decision less and less as I choose to watch the job quests on YouTube rather than playing through and leveling up all of them from scratch. But yeah, I'm not even bothering with glamours for Dragoon as Gredtroin just because, like, it's a side job. I'm just doing this for a couple weeks. But I do miss my really awesome outfit that Radle Girl crafted for me. So looking forward to playing as Monk after we get through this quest line. But I'm looking forward to Summoner Jobin getting to experience the story for the first time. But yeah, that's basically it for Final Fantasy XIV playing for the last few weeks. So as far as the Another Eden Final Fantasy IX crossover event, so like I said, that is a bonus epilogue quest. So the entire Final Fantasy IX Another Eden crossover is like a mini RPG in its own right. If you look at my unedited footage of me playing through it, which was me like not really doing the side content and going through it really fast by reducing random encounters, playing on the lowest difficulty setting, and also playing with like an overpowered party instead of playing with like the Final Fantasy IX characters. Because you do get Zidane, Dagger, Vivi, and Steiner as free characters through playing that storyline. But anyway, like it took me 10 hours to beat it, mostly avoiding the side content and kind of cheesing it to like beat as quickly as possible. So it is a lengthy expansion, DLC, what have you. Like you could easily spend like 20 to 30 hours if you're doing all the side content and stuff, which I did do more Chocobo Hot and Cold and stuff. So I did dive into a lot of the side content with the Another Eden Final Fantasy IX crossover. I mean, they have the entire freaking Final Fantasy IX world map in there. Like it's a very big crossover that feels like a game in its own right. And so this epilogue quest, which I uploaded my footage for on the channel, took about an hour and a half to do, so it's a pretty decently length quest. The raw footage is up, so you can watch that if you want. But basically, the premise behind the quest, which, takes place as, like I said, as an epilogue after you beat the expansion, is that Tantalus is putting on another play, but they need to gather materials to help with outfits and props. But because of the recent damage caused by Kuja, they can't ask Alexandra or Lindblom for any resources, so they decide to go to the world of Another Eden for supplies. And it's really fun seeing the characters of Final Fantasy IX hanging out in the world of Another Eden, and there's even some Moogles that have crossed over into the world of Another Eden. And there's a entire new Mognet chain, like an entire new Mognet side quest that opens up in this finale quest. So there's like side quests and mini games within this final quest. But yeah, the Mognet chain is pretty entertaining. There's one Moogle that's in an Another Eden location called the Man-Eaten Marsh. And it's funny because the Moogle gets a letter about how dangerous and scary the Man-Eaten Marsh is, and the Moogle thinks it'd be an awesome place to train and get stronger. And then we tell him that he's in the Man-Eaten Marsh. And he's like, well, I guess that explains why there's so many strong monsters here. And so that was pretty funny. Oh yeah, there's also a bunch of active time events in this quest. So the Another Eden Final Fantasy IX crossover has active time events, and there's a bunch in this quest. Like it is definitely not a lazy quest. There's a lot here. And like I mentioned earlier, there's even a brand new mini game in this quest where you have to make your Chocobo, named Choco, match the movements of many of the Moogles, like a dance mini game. An entire new mini game for this 1 month limited, seasonal event. But that is also Final Fantasy XIV-esque because Final Fantasy XIV has had limited time mini games with the different seasonal events. So that is XIV-esque in a way. But yeah, there's also a couple new maps to explore, a couple boss battles, so yeah, pretty meaty quest. I'm not going to get into every plot beat of the event, but I'm going to go into a few highlights. So canonically, Dagger is now a trained martial artist because she learned hand-to-hand combat from the Another Eden character Amy, and that is pretty awesome. So White Mage, Summoner, Monk hybrid is pretty fun. There's a big subplot in the storyline about a Black Mage named Number 525 who recently arrived at the Black Mage Village. And when he learns about the concept of death, he flees the village and ends up in a time gate that sends him to the future era of Another Eden, because Another Eden, time travel game, so he ends up in the future era of the Another Eden world, and he gets turned to a cyborg, Royo, and when he travels back in time to the world of Final Fantasy IX, he ends up being an important character that helps save the world in the expansion proper. However, his journey is really harsh, and he led a lonely, miserable life, and Vivi is conflicted because Vivi knows that 525 eventually turns into Royo, and wants to help him and show him love and kindness, but also knows that if he does that, that'll create a time paradox and potentially undo everything that happened in the Another Eden crossover. And so I thought it might end up being that Vivi chooses kindness, undoes the crossover, and that might be the reason why it disappears from the world of Another Eden, which I thought would be a clever meta writing thing. But the quest closes out with Vivi ultimately letting Royo go, but he does receive a message from Royo, and they are able to have some closure. And there's an interesting twist with this event where Kuja, who barely survived the end of the crossover, witnesses 525 fleeing the Black Mage village and creates a time gate to send him to Another Eden's world, knowing that ultimately that Royo would be the one to foil Kuja's plans. And so Kuja ended up stopping himself and is fully aware of the irony that he is the reason that his plans failed, because if he had not sent Royo into the world of Another Eden, then he probably would have been able to rule the world. And he wonders why he bothered saving humanity. And then he ends up quoting Zidane saying, "You don't need a reason to help people." And I thought that was actually a really clever development of Kuja's character. I thought that was really interesting and really cool. Choco the Chocobo, who is your Chocobo that you get in the Another Eden crossover, undergoes a journey to become brave and actually joins the party as a battle companion in this epilogue quest. Not a full-fledged party member, but basically you can have sidekick monsters assist the party in battles in Another Eden. And, they'll have different things that they'll do. Some will cast buffs, some will attack. And Choco the Chocobo basically casts healing spells and buffs on your Another Eden team. If you complete the Mognet chain in this quest, you get a Moogle plush that your traveling cat companion can wear on its back, because you have cat companions in Another Eden that follow you around on the world map, and you can dress them in different outfits. And so we got a cool little Moogle plushie that they can have on their back, which is really cute. As far as the play itself, it is a retelling of the Another Eden crossover, which is meant as a surprise for Dagger because she's expecting to see I Want to Be Your Canary again. And it's definitely an interesting choice that they chose to just retell the story of the crossover, but with the characters in the crossover, the 9 characters and the Another Eden characters playing as themselves. I thought that was a very interesting thing, since a lot of people, treat old Final Fantasies as if they're plays and very theatrical. I've heard a lot of commentary on that. So that was definitely an interesting choice, but the event up to that point felt like it was solid fun, but didn't really feel necessary. But then there is a scene where Zidane ends up showing up in the rural Seaton area and, replays the scene where he asked to kidnap Dagger. And, at this point, the play is a surprise to her, so she is living out the scene. It's actually, and the music kicks in. I got a little bit choked up at that. That was actually really good. And so that felt like there was that emotional weight and depth that I wanted from this quest that I was able to get. But after that scene, Dagger joins in on the play. She has to improvise her lines because she didn't know what they were doing, but, she remembers the adventure very well, and she jumps right in. And the play is overall pretty amusing. There's some silly stuff like Choco the Chocobo playing Bahamut, which feels very 14-esque. And I do like how lore-wise, in the play, they ended up changing Queen Braun into a new OC, basically to not make it hurt Dagger's feelings. I thought that was a very interesting piece of character consistency in the writing that they did there. I thought that was very cool. And so it was a nice little epilogue quest. I'm still not sure how necessary it felt, but it was nice going through the crossover again before it's gone forever. The twist with Kuja was, I think, the most interesting part of the entire quest line, but probably the best scene was the play with Zidane offering to kidnap Dagger. That was a really good scene. And before I did this finale event, I knew the crossover was ending soon, and so I recently did one of the super bosses that you need to do in order to upgrade the Final Fantasy IX crossover characters, because it's the only way that allows you to get them to max level. And you have to beat the super boss with just the Final Fantasy IX crossover characters, so it's not like, oh, you need strong gacha characters to do this. No, it's like you just have to understand the game's mechanics to beat this boss. And it's the only Another Eden super boss I've ever beaten. I basically followed a video guide in order to do it. But because I had just done that a week ago before this finale quest came out, I was kind of back in the zone of the Another Eden Final Fantasy IX crossover. And so based on the timing of the crossover release, both for the initial launch of it and for this final quest, I suspect that this was supposed to align with a Final Fantasy IX Remake announcement, but I'm starting to think that the project just completely fell apart. And while I don't need a Final Fantasy IX Remake, it is a shame that all the hard work that was put into it might be for naught, and I'm curious to see what it would have been like. And it's also a shame that this event is going to become lost media. But in the same way that folks have been archiving previous Final Fantasy XIV seasonal events, I'm glad I was able to archive this Another Eden seasonal event. The epilogue quest was a nice little cherry on top to the overall expansion, and I think the overall expansion, especially when you add the epilogue quest on top of it, yeah, it's definitely something of quality and something that does not deserve to become lost media, but unfortunately will. And, by the time a lot of people see this video, it'll be gone. But, I'm glad to archive it, and I'm, again, so grateful for the people who do archive these limited time seasonal events in these live service games so that those who miss it will be able to experience it in some way. And on that note, that is all for this week's vlog. Rather than split up Starlight Celebration into separate videos, I just want to do it all in one go. And I knew if I did all this commentary on the Another Eden seasonal event, which I did have some people ask about, and also talked about what I did with Summoner Jobin, I just knew the vlog would not come out in time, especially with how late I was starting it this week because of how long it took me to get through all the Starlight Celebration stuff on YouTube. It is a lot. So look forward to the Starlight Celebration video next week. It's going to be a fun time. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.